tornado in Tulsa. My name is Jason Bradley, and you're watching Urban Report. Hello and welcome to Urban Report. My guests today are Pastor J. Malcolm Phipps Jr., Senior Pastor of the Bethel SDA Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he is accompanied by his lovely wife, Mrs. Carolyn Phipps. Welcome to Urban Report.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. You're welcome. Now, we have a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but I want to get into your background a little bit and who you are. Have you always, Pastor Phipps, been a Seventh-day Adventist?
Yes, I am a fourth-generation Seventh-day Adventist pastor on both sides of my family.
Wow.
My mother's side goes back 3 generations, Elder John and Charles Manns.
Okay.
Charles Manns was my great-grandfather, and John Manns was my great-granduncle.
Okay.
They were early pioneers in the black work in the southeast, the southwest part of the United States.
Wow. And what about you, Mrs. Phipps?
Well, unfortunately, I have not always been Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
I grew up Baptist, but as soon as I learned the truth as an adult, I never looked back.
How were you introduced to the truth?
By a Bible worker by the
Okay.
name of Brother Michael Brown, gave me Bible studies,
Okay.
and my life has changed. It changed completely.
Wow.
Yes.
And so, how did you guys meet?
Well, there were 2 pastors that were influential at that, Elder James Cox and Elder Duranda Ford.
I know both of those pastors. I went to school with Durandal, the son, and then with Crystal Cox.
Okay. Well, those 2 pastors were the matchmakers.
Okay.
They set us up.
Okay. So they arranged the meeting. Now, did you approach Mrs. Phipps, or did Mrs. Phipps approach you? How did that take place? What was the initial point of contact?
I initiated
Okay.
everything. He came to prayer meeting one Wednesday night, and I said, he's a good pastor. I loved his message. So I decided to send him a letter,
Okay.
a traditional, old-fashioned, handwritten letter,
Okay.
and I told him how much I enjoyed his sermon that Wednesday night, and I would like to hear more.
Okay.
So it took him about 2 months to return a response.
It took you 2 months to respond to the letter. What happened?
I wanted to make sure that I wasn't being too hasty.
Okay.
I also wanted to make sure that I was ready to go to that level of relationship, because it was clear from her letter that she wasn't just looking for something casual. And so I didn't want to lead her on.
Okay.
I didn't want to make her feel as though I was, being disingenuous. So I waited until I was sure I was ready to make the step.
Okay. And so then after those 2 months, you responded back to her letter. Now, you said that he was a good pastor, also a good-looking pastor.
Yes.
That you...
I failed to say that. A good-looking pastor.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
said, I'm sure he's married or someone has snagged him already. But I said, I'm going to try. I can only get yes or no.
What happened after that?
Well, Pastor Cox did a little instigating. He gave me some tickets to a Kirk Franklin concert.
Oh.
And suggested that I take Carolyn.
Okay.
And so I did. And on our way, she let me know what I thought all along, that she was not looking for anything casual, that she was looking for a serious relationship, and if I wasn't serious, then she wasn't going to waste her time.
So it was all or nothing.
All in or all out.
That's right. Well, it looks like it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So tell me about your church now. Fast forwarding a little bit, Bethel SDA in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tell me about how you reached the community and what your church is like.
Well, I always join the Ministerial Alliance wherever I go.
Okay.
And so we got involved immediately with the other pastors,
Okay.
which was very fortuitous, as you'll see later. The next thing we did was to try to purchase some transportation. The church van was in very bad condition. It really wasn't roadworthy. So we bought a bus.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was for outreach. At the same time we bought the bus, the AY leaders started a vacation Bible school in one of the housing projects nearby called Apache Manor.
Okay.
And we would pick up the young people and bring them to the church. And that went over very well. The young people from that vacation Bible school became the core, along with our young people, of Pathfinder Club, Bethel Mighty Thunder.
Wow.
Club.
Okay.
And so between 5 and 7, 8 young people have joined the church as a result and been baptized.
Wow.
Even now, while we're out of our building, the club is still operating.
Okay.
And the leader of the club now, Elder Antonio Thompson, he has about half of the club is non-Adventist.
Wow.
And so
half of the club is non-Adventist. Okay.
And so we're still doing our outreach and witnessing, even though we're not in the building that way. Now let Sister Phipps talk about the soup kitchen.
Okay.
That was the next thing. The Pathfinders started the process. It was called Pathfinder Pathways.
Okay.
And they would get things from the food pantry and take dry lunches, packaged lunches to the homeless. And we reorganized it. Sister Phipps took over. And we named it the Soup Kitchen at Bethel.
Nice.
And so.
Okay. So we started the soup kitchen at Bethel about 2014.
Okay.
We had our first Thanksgiving dinner. We had an array of people. We had policemen who worked down the street. We had firemen. People off the streets came in. And we had a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner. They all enjoyed it. We had literature out on the table so that they could take those at will, take them home, and read about Seventh-day Adventists.
Yes.
Yes. We also would do bag lunches, and the Pathfinders would take those out and serve the people. May I add a quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay. They served one person there in particular, and he said, "No, I don't want anything. I know I can't eat it. I know a lot of it is probably unclean, pork, bologna, or whatever, and I just rather not be bothered." So they said, "No, take a look." And he did. So we were grateful, and he was happy about it. Yes.
Oh, good. Good. He looked in the bag and he saw that the food was good for his consumption. There was no pork. There was none of that.
Absolutely.
And so he was excited about that. Now, why was that so important to him?
I think because we found out later that, of course, he was homeless, which made us sad, but he's also Adventist.
Wow.
So we know that we have our own brothers and sisters out there who are struggling. And that's why it's so vitally important that we stay out there and help those who are in need of help.
Wow. And so what inspired you guys to get this part of the ministry started, the soup kitchen? Reaching out, feeding, this is practical Christianity, but what brought that about?
because in the community, the North Side, I would drive around and I would see so many people who needed food, who were in need of food, and they didn't have it. And when they would come, they would have their children with them, sometimes babies, and that touched my heart. And I had to do something. Had to.
Well, North Tulsa is a food desert.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are no grocery stores. People shop out of the dollar store or convenience stores if they don't have transportation, and many of them don't, and they live within a few few blocks. A lot of them, they're born, raised, and die within that neighborhood, and that they don't ever go anywhere.
Wow.
So the only nutritious food that they got was from the soup kitchen and the community service. Elder Barnes runs our community service, Elder Sheila Barnes, and she would have boxes which they would have healthy food that they could take home, and commodities, clothes, diapers, whatever they needed, she would supply that. And so since there was no grocery stores, no Walmart, it's a desert. And so what we were doing was really needed.
Yes.
Absolutely. So you filled the void in the community, you met their needs, and then you told them to come follow Christ.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And we had several people who don't join the church from the soup kitchen and from community service.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that transportation that you guys purchased was crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because many of those people didn't have a way.
So okay, so you have the soup kitchen. How often did you guys feed the community? Like what days?
The soup kitchen was open the same time community service was open.
Okay.
And that was every other Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay.
From 5 to 7.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because they regulate how often you can be open.
Really?
Yes. You have several different charities that operate. You have Catholic charities and others.
Okay.
And so there's a certain amount of time that you can operate, and they really don't want you to operate outside of that time.
Okay.
And so we had to be obedient.
Wow. Okay. So, but you maximized that time.
Yes, we did.
That's what it sounded like. You maximized that time. So, all right. So you've got the soup kitchen. What other outreach deals? You had the Pathfinders deal, but how else did you reach the community as well?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we joined the Ministerial Alliance, and they have different functions throughout the year.
Okay.
And our church became involved in those functions. In fact, when we joined the alliance, after the first year, they wanted me to be the treasurer. I declined to do that. I thought that wasn't wise. An Adventist pastor to handle the money for the North Tulsa Baptist Ministers Alliance. I just didn't think that. After the second year, they asked me to be the vice president. So
they asked. So wait. So they asked you to be the treasurer. You declined that. Then they asked you to be the vice president. What happened next?
I said, brother, I'm an Adventist pastor. Are you sure you want me to be the vice president of the North Tulsa Baptist Ministers Conference? And he said, didn't I ask you? I said, okay. So then they assigned me to the pastoral helps part. We meet every Tuesday. He assigned me to pastoral helps, which is like continuing education for the pastors.
This is an excellent witnessing opportunity.
And so again, I asked him, are you sure that's what you want me to do? I only know Adventism. I can only teach what I know. This is a North Tulsa Baptist Ministers Conference. He said, didn't I ask you? He said, we need to be well-rounded. We need to know and be educated. I said, okay. So they learned the three angels message. They learned the Sabbath. They learned the state of the dead. They learned the health message.
Yeah.
They learned it all.
Wow. Now, where else are you going to find the opportunity to present that in that manner? That's a blessing. God opened the door for that one. What was their response?
Well, the response was varied. When we talked about the Sabbath, several of them just dropped their heads. And we had the same response with some of the others. The biggest debate and discussion was over the health message.
Really?
Yeah. There were some who felt like that was part of the law of Moses and that it only applied to the Jews and so on. And so we had a real healthy discussion on that. The Sabbath was not an issue. They all knew. They knew the Sabbath. State of the Dead was divide. There were some who agreed with us, and there were some who were adamant and opposite. And when we really got into some serious discussion was when I brought up the fact that Jesus, after he had risen, told Mary he had not yet ascended to the Father. So if he had not yet ascended to the Father, the thief couldn't have been with him on Friday in paradise. And so that really sparked some discussion. We did give several of them who were interested Amazing Facts Bible studies so they could look further for themselves. But I haven't pressured anybody.
Okay.
I just I gave them the information.
Yeah.
They're all educated men. And give them a chance to digest it.
Yeah.
I'll come back to it.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering how they feel when they see the Sabbath. I mean, because you really can't argue against it's plain. It's plain as day.
Very plain.
Yeah.
And that's you could see around the table. When I got to the seventh day Sabbath, they just...
Yeah, I mean, how are they going to refute it?
They can't.
Yes. Wow. That is an excellent witnessing opportunity. You also have some other ministries that you do, outreach, backpack ministry. Tell us real quick about the backpack ministry.
Well, just before school starts, about 2 weeks before, we will find who is in need, and we will supply that need to the children for backpacks. And, of course, school uniforms. If they need those, we will satisfy that need as well.
Wow.
And also, another ministry is the personal care bags that we provide for those who are in need of basic soaps, lotions, whatever they need. We will provide that.
Wow. So you guys have had a tremendous impact on the community. You know, we've been talking about your church. We've been talking about the impact that you've had on the community and the Alliance and all of these things, but we haven't seen any pictures of your church. Now, we have some pictures of your church while it's intact and looking pristine, clean. So we're going to take a look at some of those now, and you can tell us what we're looking at.
Well, that's the sanctuary there. That's the sanctuary. That's the front of the church.
Okay. So you got
before the tornado.
Okay, and it looks like it's pretty solid, solid there.
Well, that's why we survived, because it's cinder block construction.
Okay, and so you guys were hit by a tornado
during prayer meeting.
So there were people in the church.
Yes, we had just finished song service section. We were about to go into the prayer because the people had given their testimonies and the prayer request, and we were about to start the prayer itself. Okay. And then everybody's phone went off.
Really, with the alarm?
And as soon as the phone went off, then the siren started.
Wow.
And as soon as the siren started, silk started falling down from the ceiling.
Wow.
And I said, Pastor, don't you think maybe we ought to go home? I said, no, I think we're in the safest place. We're in a cinder block construction, but we need to get out of here.
Yes.
So we got out of the sanctuary. No sooner did we start out of the sanctuary than we could hear the roof coming off.
Wow.
So we began to run out of the sanctuary.
Yeah.
We got out into the foyer, and no sooner had we got in the foyer than there was a sister who was late, and she stepped inside the doors, and the bricks in the front fell where she would have been if she had been a second later.
Wow.
At the same time, the upstairs of the sanctuary fell down into the church. So if we had hesitated, it would have been a whole different story.
Oh, yeah, we might not be sitting here talking today.
So nobody was hurt, not a scratch on anybody.
You know, we actually have a video clip that we're going to show of just right when the tornado took place, right after the tornado took place. Yes. And look at the devastation that took place to a church. Let's take a look at that clip.
Oh, yeah. It hit the church.
It hit the church, not went over us, but...
No, it straight up hit the church. This is the east side of the church. As you can see, is the front is gone. The roof is destroyed. From the inside, it only looked like halfway gone, but from the outside, you can see it's gone. The roof is destroyed all the way to the back of the church, just about. This is the west.
Call the gas company yet?
No, somebody needs to call them. Please call them and let them know that the gas is real strong. That's the next thing. I'm afraid it might blow up. Okay.
Wow. Now that is a whole nother look to the church that we saw that was pristine, clean, and intact. That tornado came through and devastated the church, and it's a blessing that you guys are still alive. And, you know, I've heard your story before, and I was very impressed with what took place even after the tornado, while you guys were in the process, and while you're still in the process of rebuilding the church. Touch on how ministry still continued while you guys were rebuilding.
Well, we were determined not to let our light die. There were those who wanted to move south. And I was determined that we were going to stay in our neighborhood because we already had outreach going. We had people who were contacts who could possibly join the church. If we move south, we make it almost impossible for them to be with us. So it so happened that there was a church who was renting from us while they were rebuilding their church. And so we charged them $600 a month. And just to give you an idea, we had a youth federation and rented another facility because our facility was too small. And it was $600 for 2 days. Okay, so just to give you an idea. So we charged them $600 a month. When our church was destroyed, they opened their doors to us. And they charged us $600 a month.
Wow.
If we had not fellowshipped, we would have had that door not open to us. After we had been there for a while, we decided to move again, and we moved to another church the pastor was a minister of the Alliance. He was a Christian Methodist Episcopal pastor. He opened his church to us. And he said, I asked him, how much do we need to pay? He said, well, what were you paying before? I said, $600 a month. He said, then $600 a month.
Wow. So they were fair. They were fair with that.
They were more than fair. They were extremely generous.
Absolutely.
And so the point is that because of the relationships that we built in the community, we have been blessed. Whereas we would have been in serious hurt.
And see, that's important. Like, your church is one that would be missed had it just vanished. You know, the community would miss your church because you have a tremendous impact on the community. Now, what's going on with the rebuilding process of the church?
Well, we ran into a few difficulties. There was a discrepancy between what the architect and the contractors thought it was going to cost us to get back in the building, and what the insurance company thought it was going to cost us to get back in the building. And they were between $200,000 and $300,000 apart.
That's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah. And of course, the insurance company gave us what they thought it would cost us to get back in, and it turns out that it was what the contractor and the architect said it was going to cost. In addition to that, of course, with the roof blown off, it was raining. You know, rain always comes with a tornado.
Yes.
So we had 2 to 3 inches of water standing in the building, and of course, within 3 days, we had mold running up the walls.
Wow.
And the insurance company said we weren't covered for mold. And so that was another battle. But the state of Oklahoma says that water damage and mold damage is the same thing. So then they had to come up with money for the mold. But again, there was a discrepancy. The mold company said it's going to cost $300,000 to fix this. The insurance company said they felt like it would cost $150 to fix it. And so they gave us $150. Again, it was what the mold company said it was. So we had to take money that we needed to build to fix the mold because we couldn't go back in.
So you're short. You're short
Yes.
finances on getting the church fully repaired.
That's correct.
And how much short would you say that you are?
Well, it is. We are fortunate that we are part of a union that really cares about us. And so the Southwestern Union Conference, in cooperation with our president, Elder Watkins, came up with a grant of $90,000.
Okay.
And so we'll be able to get back in our sanctuary, we're hoping, by September.
Okay.
The rest of it, we got to keep raising money.
And so how do people, if they want to support what you're trying to do, rebuild the church, how do they get in touch with you? What's the website?
It is Bethel49.AdventistChurchConnect.org.
And do you have an email address as well?
My email address is my name, jmalcolmphipps.jr@yahoo.com.
Okay, wonderful. And when people go to that website, they'll be able to click on a giving tab.
That is correct.
And donate to the church so
That is
that you
correct.
guys can finish repairing the church.
There'll be a place under church budget where they can type in rebuild.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Having us.
And thank you for joining us. Join us next time. And remember, it just wouldn't be the same without you.